So this is a recap, but this gonna be interesting. This is gonna be interesting. Um, Recapping what we talked about. We talked about some of the things, but we're talking about Matthew's account in the boat with Jesus, and we were talking about there were three different accounts of this, and I wanted to touch on Matthew first. Tonight, we're going to talk about Luke and Mark's account, and that's where I said it's going to get so interesting because that handout that I gave you, when I was looking at the parables, Elder Regina, this thing got so deep because because I wanted to, because this is the other thing too. In the parables, did I give you one? It, three different accounts. They all had the parables, right? Matthew's was a little bit earlier on in the book. But Luke and Mark, theirs was closer to before he said, let's go to the book, or let's go to the So the parables, Jesus had several parables. But let's real quick, because these parables could go get so deep into them. But I just wanted to touch on why he gave them the parables. So if let's do Matthew first. Matthew 13 and 1. And have a reader for some of that.
Matthew 13, 1.
Okay, no, so go to 13 and 3.
Okay.
That's where it starts.
All right. So Matthew 13:3. Then he spoke many things to them in parables, saying, Behold, a sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, some seed fell by the wayside, and the birds came and devoured them. Some fell on stony places, which they did not have much earth, and they immediately sprang up because they had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprang up and choked them. But others fell on good ground and yielded a crop. Some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. He who has ears, let him hear.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So you stopped at
Verse 9.
Verse 9, right?
Mm-hmm.
These parables are similar in all their accounts, right? And at the end of them, verse 10, and the disciples came and said unto him, Why speakest thou in parables? Jesus' response was the same in all the accounts also, where he said, he answered and said unto them, because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. That's where it gets deep. Because he's telling the disciples, basically, you rolling with me, you should have more of a, I've already given unto you what you need to know for the kingdom, all the mysteries, and then once he starts to break down the parable, he's only breaking the parable down to them, what he actually meant on this parable. The parables, when you look at this, the parables are not for the disciples. The parables for them. And you say, well, that. And that's like I said, when it gets deeper because I just kept reading, and if you don't have the red letter Bible in your presence, these parables they're in red. These sayings, it's in red, and it's just. I didn't want to stay here too long, but I wanted to see what your thoughts were on understanding the parable, or at least understanding this parable, because you always hear it. You always hear this particular parable about the seeds.
Whoops.
So, what are your thoughts on that? How do you see if you understand it, or would you be like the disciples saying, "Hey, you talking?"
What this mean?
Mm-hmm.
What does this mean?
Yeah.
It's about the word, right? Sowing the word in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
So your heart's either stony or you get choked by cares of this world, or your heart's fertile ground for the word.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Pastor John talked about it.
Mm-hmm. What's that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but what about the part in Matthew? He said, he answered unto, because I spoke that to them, because it is given unto you the mysteries of the kingdom, but to them it is not given. Them, masses. Until the masses understand this parable, they are not the believer's part. And you look at your environment, and this is where I was talking about, Elder Jim, is you get deeper, because you falling into what's your environment, because when it said, and when he sowed some seeds, they fell by the wayside, and the fowls came up and devoured them, and some fell in stony places. Your environment, where this word comes to you, what's your environment? Are you in a position to where you get a word, but you're not in a position to do anything with that word, because the word fell by the wayside, or the word fell into the rocky ground? You're not in a position to keep that word to your heart.
But that's the point. It's not the environment, it's your heart condition.
Right. But
You could be distracted by your environment.
Right.
That would be the problem.
Right. And I like that. Thank you. And that's why,
Like in the boat. We're gonna die.
Right. And that's why I was saying, because it gets deeper because you're like, when it fell on in this particular account, it says some seeds fell by the wayside and the fowls came to devour them up. So that meant where you was at that point, somebody got a little bit of that word, so you didn't get all of it. You see what I'm saying? You didn't get enough to keep it. Okay, I got all of it, and that's why when it goes into you on good ground, and and you can keep the word close to you, and you are a believer. This is to help your belief. But my thing was I wanted to talk about the parables part. Like, what do you think? You know, him saying that to the disciples, like, and they're still kind of like, what are you talking about? Because I really, I really want to go back to that one because where's expound? Expound. He talks about in it when he expound means to give a detailed, careful explanation of a complex ideal, while explain is a more general term for making something clear or understandable. Expound. I'm listening.
So we're using the word expound in relationship to
The parables?
the explanation of the parables to the disciples, or
They were the only ones he explained them to.
Yeah, and that's the part that I'm trying to
He didn't explain them to the people, only
yeah,
the
he
disciples.
he explained it to
Just them.
he in one of his answers he used he expound in one of the if you can read through in one of the accounts he expounded what and I'm in that was Mark, so did he say because that's
I think too, as you go on to read Matthew 15 verse, where he talks about their heart is waxed
mm-hmm.
and ears, they heart is waxed and gross, and their ears are dull of hearing. So I don't think he's talking about the disciples.
No, it's not.
He's talking about the
Mass
people.
The people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He thought, yes. And that's and that was the whole thing as far as what he was saying to them. Like basically you should, since I've already given you you're rolling with me, so you should know know how I do.
Okay, yeah.
You should know. Well, it's a lot of faith that they because sir.
yeah, I kind of feel like Jesus was using the parables because if you can understand the message in these parables, when it comes time to explain to the masses, like you're saying, the Gentile, whoever, the Jews that don't believe in the Gentiles later, you'll be able to better get the meaning of the parable across. You'll understand it more deeply, or so deeply, or deeply enough where you can explain it to somebody else.
Right.
The sight.
And that's and that was his very statement to say, if you don't get this one, how are you going to get other parables if you don't understand this parable? And that's where I went down that rabbit hole, but I wanted to see how we viewed this. What's your before I moved on, because this I wanted to talk about. They all had this particular parable before the boat. They all had basically, because he was talking to the people. He was talking to the people, and it was almost like a something to really check them, to say, hey, this is how I talk, because all of them asked, like, what are these parables? So what is it? And that's where I was like, this is I want this, Elder, this might be its own Bible study, because this one, that one, it really, I was just like, wow, he got
It makes you think.
yeah, he got deep on it. But like I said, he wanted them to understand that you should know this because you are with me.
But they
They
didn't.
didn't. They didn't. They didn't.
So what does that tell you about us? Okay, back up with you. Because I was thinking about when God gives us a word, or I could make it more clear, like, in a couple of months back, when God had me go back, he said, I want you to go back and present on the fruit
Right.
and the gifts.
Right.
And I said, well, Lord, I did that last year, like he didn't know.
Mm.
I said, I did that last year in April 2024. I want you to go back and go over that again.
Mm.
But I want you to go a little deeper. And see, mind you, when I had began to prepare for it, I had already prepared something else to present. And but after preparing and going back over the fruit and the gifts, God reminded me how the mentoring piece tied in with that. But I didn't get that at first. See what I'm saying? So after going back over the fruit and the gifts again, then I said, okay, God, I understand now where I didn't understand a year back. But I understood now why he mandated me to go back over. And trust me, yeah, this is what I want you to present, but it was more for me. It was more for me to understand about the fruit and the gifts while giving it out as a presentation. And I said, ooh. Trust me, that's maybe like part 1 or 2. There is a whole nother piece to that. But I said, well, God, can't I get a break?
You got lots of breaks.
Can I get a break? But understanding,
Understanding.
when the word comes to us, depending on what type of environment is going on in our life, whether it's gonna drop what God wanted to drop, or the light comes on beam, maybe a week later. Sometimes we don't catch it right then. Now, Sunday, and I thought about this class after, when I got back home. I said, I bet it was a bunch of people wondering what was going on with Dr. Johnson over there. Not everybody, but a few. You was in the back, so you missed it. But I said, God, I bet some folks was wondering what in the world.
We were struggling too.
Not everybody, only those that were tuned in probably picked up what was that word told me. I tried to.
It's powerful.
Oh wow. I mean, I got it. It was a good one.
And it was like, it's hard to explain how God will give you something for yourself. He ain't told nobody else. And you ain't told Larry ain't told you. And you ain't told Larry. And then God will use somebody to give it to you verbatim from the throne. That's what happened to me Sunday. I said. And then Miss Ella right here, I was trying to explain to her later how the word told me up. She said, oh, really? You was waiting for that.
It sound like that.
But you were
Look,
though.
I couldn't do it but smile because
You were
it
waiting for it.
registered. I said, well,
Yeah, I was kind of waiting for
maybe
it.
my spirit was waiting for it.
We was all waiting for
But
that.
that goes back to understanding. Sometimes the understanding don't come right
Right then.
then.
Yeah.
Understanding is good, even if it gotta come with correction.
Right,
You wanna know.
right.
Correct me, please. Help me get on the right path, because I will miss it.
Yeah, he gonna help.
I know, and it might hurt
He
too.
gonna help us.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the same thing with the seed.
I don't think I ever learned anything one and done though. Like there was the message, they preached it, and I was like, I'm good. I gotta hear it again and then again. You know what I'm saying?
You always get something different.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when you grow, then you get different understanding of the same. One and done, no.
And how it connects.
And that's why I wanted to link all three of these. The parables, they all on these three different accounts. They all, and like I said, Matthew was earlier, but the other two were just before, they went in the boat.
But minister, isn't that the same thing for us? We all get a different perspective of the word when it comes to us based on where we are
What's going
right
on
then
in our
and
lives.
there.
Yeah.
Same.
That's this whole
Same application.
whole thing. And that's why, but the only thing, sometimes, it goes back to the wording. So, let's do, let's do Luke's account. Luke is in 8. 22.
Eight, five.
Hmm?
It's 5.
8, 5.
No, I'm not doing the
Oh, okay.
the parables.
Oh, okay.
Cause that I'm gonna have to.
It's that same parable.
We going, yeah, this is,
Are you talking about 11? What are you talking about?
no, we're going to the boat.
Oh,
Okay, so you said Luke or no?
Luke 8:22.
8:22. Okay. One day he and his disciples got into a boat. That one? Okay.
And if you can, make a note, because we're gonna, Mark is, Mark 4:36. And so they're similar. But what we do when we're in, what we do when we have to go to talk and get in Jesus' presence. So we're gonna read Luke first. You have a reader, go to 24, Luke 8:22 to 24.
Now it happened on a certain day that he got into a boat with his disciples, and he said to them, "Let us cross over to the other side of the lake." And they launched out. But as they sailed, he fell asleep, and a windstorm came down on the lake, and they were filling with water and were in jeopardy. And they came to him and awoke him, saying, "Master, Master, we are perishing." Then he arose and rebuked the wind and the raging of the water, and they ceased, and there was a calm.
And then he said, what did he say after that?
Oh, I thought he said the 24.
He did.
And 20, yes.
He did.
But he said to them,
Mhm.
"Where is your faith?" And they were afraid and marveled, saying to one another, "Who can this be? For he commands even the winds and the water, and they obey him."
Yep. Okay. That's funny.
So, this is Mark. So someone read for me Mark 44:36.
Yes, they're close.
4:36.
Mark 4.
36.
So they left the crowd and took him along since he was in the boat because they forgot. And other boats were with them. And a great windstorm arose and the waves were breaking over the boat, so that the boat was already being swamped. He was in the stern sleeping on a cushion. So they woke him up and said, "Teacher, don't you care that we're going to die?" He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the sea, "Silence, be still." The wind ceased, and there was a great calm. Then he said to them, "Why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith?" And they were terrified and asked one another, "Who then is this? Even the wind and sea obey him." I mean, when was the last time you saw somebody tell the sea, "Hey, be calm"? And that's pretty terrifying.
So I think like we talked about last Thursday, like you're now seeing, the miracles was okay, we're gonna have food, we're gonna heal some people, but now you are commanding nature.
Yeah, that's serious.
You are like, hey, waves.
Yeah, that's like God bringing down fire and stuff. That's different.
I got on, Mark was the only one, he He said, peace be still. Mm. Mark was the only one.
That's interesting.
So it was talked about like he was talking to the disciples too. Oh, the only one that said peace be still, because in Luke when he said, and he rebuked the wind, he said in Luke it says he rebuked the wind and the raging of the water, and they ceased, and there was a calm. But Mark was the only one that said peace be still.
It depends on your translation. That's probably NIV or King James, because mine just says he told it silence.
And that's another thing too, because some of those words, and that's why I thank God,
You can look them up.
that I'm here, where God has placed me in this ministry, because that's my story to people when they say why you do what you do as far as the words on the screen, because we all have our own versions of the Bible, but one that stuck out to me is when Pastor had the verse, as the deer panteth, most Bible say, as the deer panteth after the water brook, so shall my soul. Past King James Version, as the hart panteth. H-A-R-T, that's a full-grown deer. That's the only time when I can say that was what Pastor wanted everybody to see, those words, as the heart. So when I'm thirsting after something, I don't just want a little drink. I'm parched. I want to drink. I'm a full-grown deer. You don't get that in the other versions. It just says deer.
I looked up the Greek word for that peace be still. It says involuntary stillness. So the waves weren't trying to be still, but he made them still. So they were involuntarily stilled. You know, it says they didn't decide to be quiet. He told them they had to obey his commands. Involuntary stillness.
And probably the disciples running around.
He needed to say that to them.
Hey, because I mean, once you get frantic, and you like, okay, this one stopped, but that really stopped. Whoo, my God, you stopped that way, but look, Master, there's enough. Whew, you're gonna have to pray in some of this. You're gonna have to believe in some of this. So if they running around,
They tripping.
whoo, peace be still. That means y'all
Be quiet, be still.
Like, sit down.
get somewhere and sit down.
See, that's what my mother back in the day used to tell us.
Yep.
We'd be running around, she said, just be still,
Be
go there, be still. Yeah. And we know what it was, because the switch was coming next, and we didn't.
Yeah. But my God, I know they was running around frantic, because if they went back to talk to get in his presence, and he came to where they were. And another thing too, in Matthew, he checked them first. And in Luke and Mark, he went to them and took care of everything that was going on with them. And that's just, what do you think? Let's do Luke first. What do you think the difference was of how they came to him? What do you think the difference was?
how they came to him.
In Luke, the account of Luke, and they came to him, and I'm thankful that they came to them. The church, hey, they came to him, and they came to him and awoke him, saying, Master, Master, we perish. We perish. Then he arose.
They were fearful.
And you said Mark is the only one that spoke.
They were both on two
Wow.
sides.
But it says they were in danger.
Mm-hmm.
The danger was real.
Mm-hmm.
So they,
There what?
I wonder what the significance of him being asleep in the hinder of the boat on a pillow, what the significance of that is in Mark that wasn't in Matthew.
You know, you can go on that one and say, like, and our thoughts like, is
And
this
might not be no sleep.
really significant for me to go in his presence and ask him this? Am I really that fearful of my life to get? It's almost like you picture, like, you gotta go ask your dad something, your mom, and they
And you gotta wake them up. Oh,
do I really need this? I do need this. It can paint that picture. God is in a comfortable state. Do I?
I'm like, maybe we should go to sleep too.
I said that before. When they first got on the boat, he went to sleep. They should have gone to sleep. But it paints the picture. He is comfortable. Am I really that afraid? Am I really? I don't have this, and I'm gonna have to do this. It paints that. The pillow, because it was the only one that's.
Why was
And
there
there
a
was
He
pillow?
found a pillow.
There was other ships too in one account where in Matthew it made you believe it was Jesus and the disciples on the ship they were on or the boat they were on and nobody else was around.
Then we talked about that last Thursday. That was the groupies. We going over there too. Where they go?
And it stands to reason that there was
Everybody
some.
that's going with you can't go with you. They can't.
It makes sense that there was other people that was going to go with them. But in Matthew it didn't really.
Yeah, yeah. But that's the picture that is painted. Are you?
And then in,
really
in,
have?
in Matthew it says the disciples followed them on the boat. And then in Mark it says the disciples took them on the boat.
Yeah. Yeah. They all got on. Like, hey. And the other one is almost like, yeah, he was behind them. But that's how they were. That's how they were. That was, like I said, their account.
So why did you go to the other side?
To get them demons, take care of all of that. See, he had something to do when he got over there.
Yeah.
He had something, and it, don't say what they said. They was like, okay, so you came over here, and we gotta get back on the boat because that's the follow up. We just went through a storm. We talked about the three things: you either going through a storm, went through a storm, or you didn't go through it, or you're in it. So now you gotta get back on the boat.
Talking about faith.
The same boat, we can't get that. No, we get back on this one. And they sailed. So that's the other part where you're tossed. The wind will toss that sail. If you don't know those sails, that's a whole nother gift. You knowing how to make those sails go, and the boat is leaning, but you still going. Woo! Who's moving you? You on the tilt, but you still going forward. Who's moving you? Who's got that? And then, which one? Um, do you care? So in Luke, they specifically was like, Master, Master, we perish. Mark said, do you care? Master, carest thou not that we perish? Do you even care if we?
You about to die.
So with those two, how you get into God's presence, and you need Him to do something because of, I guess, your posture. Let me take care of this. Let me show you who I am. Let me go to what's going on with you. Do you have Matthew? What did Matthew say? And what did he say to them? The son, so Matthew 8:18, and that follows, that goes all the way down.
Yeah.
But when he started talking to them, Matthew said in 8:25, and his disciples came to him and awoke him, saying, Lord, save us, we perish. So, posture? Because this is not as this they it's Lord save us, we perish. And that's the thing where, okay, you don't woke me up. That was so I got time to check you. You woke me up because, you know. You see what I'm saying? It's a different. Looking at it. What's your comments on it? It's posture. How are you? Because in the other ones, they specifically, Master, we perish. How are you coming into God's presence to have Him do something about your situation? How are you getting into His presence?
Frantically.
Oh, Elder, because are you on your face on this one? You really need something, or are you just standing and praying for it? Oh my God! How are you coming into His presence? You like Gary is on his face about this one. Hey, what's going on? I'm praying and I'm walking around. Give little faith. What? Posture.
Well, it depends on what I'm going in His presence for. Say, now, for example, if I'm standing in the gap on behalf of somebody, there have been times where I'm walking.
Oh yes.
You
Okay,
know.
yes, yes.
Then, okay. If I'm pleading my case, I'm usually on my face.
Master, we perish.
Posture. There was a time where, and sometimes I still do it, elders, you doing all that hollering and screaming. And God would tell, I heard you the first time. Why you hollering and screaming? Posture.
And like us, like we talked about last Thursday, they still had to work on their beliefs because they still question. They still, you should. You got loaf bread, he got loaf bread. All right, we got 2 loaves. We're gonna be able to feed.
That was a miracle. That was a miracle.
But they still didn't believe.
And
I'm a witness to happen. I was juggling, and now I get my money back. 3 weeks, 3 pay periods. Yeah. And going to work like I'm getting paid and getting gas, getting food, and my LESA, 0. Year to date, that's what that is, but to date, I was like, oh wow, okay. Can't show this to the bank. Hand me the loan. This is what I got. They're like, But yeah, that's where I want to look into these accounts. Yeah, they still kept it moving. They stayed with it. Questions? Comments? We know, we fishermen, we know what the sea does. We know it's all the storms. But yes, I think that would be its own. That would be its own Bible study talking about how they thought about uh, yeah the parables. That would be its own.
So we start out talking about their faith, right?
Yep.
And the parables, I'm trying to connect the dots here. We started out talking about their faith or lack thereof, according to Jesus, after they woke him up. I got that.
And parables, the connection was he spoke these same parables and those on those accounts too, and he spoke them only in Luke and Mark. He spoke those parables before he went to the other side. Matthew, he spoke them before, verses before. So that that's why I didn't really go into the parables, but the parables was another, all three of them had that account. He said that for Matthew, Luke, and Mark. He said those parables, and that was the connection. But those parables, looking at it, was y'all have to be close into what I've given you. And that's why I said that's its own Bible study, because we don't get it either. But